Stop. These coins could be hidden treasure. Do not spend them. Check your pocket now, because what looks like a normal Washington quarter could actually be a silent fortune hiding in plain sight. Nobody talks about these, but collectors are fighting over them in real auction shock moments. You could be holding hidden wealth and not even know it. These coins change everything, and each one we reveal gets rarer, more dangerous to ignore, and more valuable. So stay with me till the end. First up, you've probably tossed this coin into a vending machine without even thinking twice. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous. The 1991p Washington quarter doesn't scream value. It doesn't shine like silver. It doesn't look rare, but that's the trap. This is one of those quiet coins that slips through fingers every single day while carrying the weight of serious money. And if you miss this, you don't just lose a coin, you lose a hidden opportunity that most people never even realize existed. Now here's where things start getting intense. The year 1991 wasn't just another random moment in US history. It was a time of economic tension, shifting markets, and massive production demands at the US Mint. The country was adjusting after the late 80s financial swings, and coins were being pushed out fast to meet circulation needs. That pressure created something most people overlook: subtle imperfections, stressed dies, and coins that were never meant to survive in collectible condition, yet a few did. Look closely at the front, George Washington's profile. It seems ordinary, right? But collectors obsess over the sharpness of his hair details, the clarity in the word liberty, and how deeply "in God we trust" is struck. On the back, that eagle isn't just an eagle, it's a battlefield of detail. The wings, the arrows, the olive branches. Every tiny line tells a story of how well or poorly that coin was struck under pressure. And that tiny P mint mark, that's Philadelphia. That's where the story gets serious. This coin is made from a copper-nickel-clad composition, but don't let that fool you. It weighs about 5.67 grams, with a diameter of 24.3 millimeters and a thickness that feels almost too ordinary to matter. But that exact size, that exact feel in your hand, that's what makes it so easy to ignore. And that's why people keep spending them. The girth, the edge reading, the balance, it all blends in perfectly with billions of other quarters. Except this one isn't the same. Here's what most people miss, and this detail changes everything. Because of the high-speed production in 1991, many coins came out with weak strikes, worn dies, and surface inconsistencies. So when a 1991p quarter survives in even fine condition with strong visible details, collectors start paying attention. And when the toning is original, when that natural aging creates a dark, almost antique surface, that's when it becomes something else entirely. That's when it stops being pocket change and starts becoming a silent fortune. But listen carefully. This is where people destroy their own luck. The moment you clean this coin, you erase its story. You strip away the very thing collectors are willing to fight over. That natural dirt, that uneven tone, those subtle shades of gray and silver, they are proof of authenticity. Never clean this coin. Not with water, not with cloth, not with anything. Once it's gone, the value collapses instantly, and there's no going back. And yes, you heard this right. Even in fine condition, this coin has reached auction levels up to $50 zeroth, not because it's flashy, not because it's perfect, but because it survived. Because collectors know how rare it is to find one that still holds its original character after decades of circulation. This isn't hype. This is real auction behavior, quiet, intense, and competitive. People don't just buy these, they hold them. There's also something psychological happening here. Collectors aren't just chasing metal, they're chasing survival stories. A 1991p quarter that made it through years of use without being destroyed becomes a symbol. It becomes something personal. And that emotional connection, that's what drives the price higher. Demand keeps rising, supply keeps shrinking, and every time one disappears into a private collection, it gets harder to find the next. If you're holding one right now, the first thing you need to check is the detail clarity. Look at Washington's cheek, the eagle's feathers, the lettering sharpness. Then check the surface. Does it look original, untouched, slightly aged? That's what you want. And if you think you've got something special, don't guess. Get it professionally graded. That single step can turn uncertainty into confirmed value. And above all, do not spend this coin. Because the truth is brutal, people are losing thousands of dollars every single day by not paying attention. This coin blends in too well. It hides too easily. And that's exactly why it keeps slipping through the cracks. But now you know. Now you see it differently. Stay right here, because the next coin is even more shocking. It's rarer, more misunderstood, and what collectors are doing to get their hands on it might actually surprise you. You might actually throw this coin away, not spend it, throw it away because it looks too dirty to matter. And that right there, that's the mistake that's costing people tens of thousands of dollars. The 1981 Washington quarter with no visible mint mark doesn't look valuable. It looks worn, tired, ignored, like it's already lived its life. But what if I told you this exact coin, in dirty, circulated condition, has shocked auctions at $60,000? This is not fiction. This is happening, and most people miss it completely. Now pause for a second and really think about 1981. The United States was under intense economic pressure. Interest rates were high, inflation had just ripped through the late 70s, and the country was trying to stabilize. The mint wasn't thinking about collectors, they were thinking about speed. Coins had to be produced, shipped, and circulated fast. That pressure created something unusual. Coins that weren't preserved, coins that weren't saved, and coins that slowly disappeared into everyday use without anyone paying attention. And here's where the obsession begins. When you look at a 1981 Washington quarter and you don't immediately see a mint mark, your brain might tell you it's nothing special. But collectors don't see nothing, they see a story. Because in 1981, most people didn't care about saving coins. There were no big collector pushes for that year. So what happened? These quarters went straight into circulation and stayed there. That means finding one today, especially one that still holds its original surface, is incredibly rare. Take a closer look at the front of the coin. George Washington's face might look soft, slightly worn down, maybe even dull. But collectors are scanning every inch of it, the curve of the jawline, the spacing in Liberty, the depth of In God We Trust, and especially the date, 1981. That date carries weight. It represents a time when coins weren't protected. They were used. And that usage is exactly what makes surviving examples so valuable today. Flip it over, and now you're staring at the eagle, but not the bold, sharp eagle you see on newer coins. This one might look faded, almost ghost-like in places. The wings may not be crisp. The arrows might blend into the background. And the olive branches could look weak. But here's the twist. Collectors love that, because it proves the coin hasn't been tampered with. That wear, that natural aging, that uneven look, it's authenticity. It's history you can hold in your hand. Physically, this coin feels completely normal. Around 5.67 grams. About 24.3 millimeters in diameter. Standard thickness. The reeded edge still there, slightly worn but present. Nothing about it screams rare. And that's the danger, because it blends in perfectly with every other quarter in your pocket. You could be holding one right now and not even realize it. That's how silent this fortune really is. Now let's talk about that dirty condition, because this is where people get it completely wrong. That dark tone, that uneven surface, that almost grimy appearance, that's not damage. That's survival. That's decades of untouched history sitting on the surface of that coin. And the second you try to clean it, you destroy everything. You erase the evidence collectors are paying for. Never clean this coin. Not ever. Because once that original toning is gone, the value can drop like a rock, and it will never recover. And here's the part that should honestly make you uncomfortable. Because while you're watching this, people are still spending these coins. They're using them for coffee, parking meters, vending machines, completely unaware that they're handing over something that could be worth $60, zeroth. That's not a small mistake. That's life-changing money disappearing in seconds. Do not spend this coin. If you even think you have one, pull it aside immediately. Collectors aren't casual about this coin either. They're aggressive, but quiet. These aren't flashy auctions with loud bidding wars. These are calculated, strategic moves behind the scenes. When a strong example shows up, especially one with original, untouched surfaces, it gets attention fast. And once it's bought, it disappears. Locked away, held, never returned to the market. That's why demand keeps rising while supply keeps shrinking. There's also something deeper happening here. This coin represents a gap, a moment in time when nobody was paying attention. And collectors are obsessed with filling that gap. They want what others ignored. They want what survived against the odds. And when they find it, they don't hesitate. That emotional drive is pushing prices higher every year. What looks like a dirty coin to you looks like a missing piece of history to them. If you're serious about this, here's what you need to do. First, check for the missing mint mark, or one that's extremely faint. Then examine the surface. Does it look natural? Aged? Untouched? Good. That's what you want. Next, resist every urge to clean it. I'm saying it again because it matters that much. And finally, get it professionally graded. That's the moment where guesswork ends and real value begins. Because this coin isn't just metal. It's hidden wealth. It's silent fortune. It's the kind of thing that sits unnoticed for years until one person finally realizes what they have. And when they do, it changes everything. This is not about luck anymore. This is about awareness. And trust me, what comes next is even bigger. The next coin doesn't just hide in plain sight. It hides in a way that's almost impossible to detect. And yet collectors are paying even more for it. Stay with me. There's a very real chance you've already had this coin, and let it go without a second thought. No hesitation, no pause, just gone. That's what makes the 1971D Washington quarter so unsettling. It doesn't look rare. It doesn't feel important. But buried inside that ordinary appearance is something collectors are quietly chasing with serious money. We're talking about a coin that has reached $70,000, and people are still spending it like it's worth 25 cents. Do not spend this coin. Now step back into 1971 for a moment, because this is where the story gets heavy. The United States was going through a major shift. The dollar was under pressure, and this was the exact year when the country moved away from the gold standard under President Nixon. That decision shook confidence, changed how money was viewed, and forced the mint to produce massive amounts of coinage for a system that was rapidly evolving. Coins weren't being made for collectors. They were being pushed out for survival. That kind of pressure leaves marks, real, physical marks on coins. And the 1971D quarter is a perfect example of that. Produced in Denver, marked with that small but powerful D, these coins were struck in huge numbers, but not with care for long-term preservation. Dies wore down fast, details became inconsistent, and coins entered circulation immediately. So finding one today in fine condition, with clear features still visible, is far more rare than people realize. Look at the front of the coin closely. Washington's face may show signs of wear, but the key is what's still there. The outline of his hair, the strength of the profile, the spacing in liberty, and the boldness or softness of "In God We Trust." Collectors examine these details like detectives, because every surviving feature tells them this coin beat the odds. It survived decades of use without being completely erased. Flip it over, and the eagle tells another story. This isn't just a design, it's a test of endurance. The wings, the feathers, the arrows, the olive branches. In most 1971D quarters, these details are heavily worn or blurred from circulation. But when you find one where those elements still hold definition, even in fine condition, it triggers something in collectors, because they know how rare that survival really is. And physically, it feels just like any other quarter. Around 5.67 grams, diameter of 24.3 millimeters, standard thickness, the reeded edge still wrapping around the sides. Nothing about it warns you. Nothing tells you to stop. And that's exactly why people keep losing them. This coin hides in plain sight better than almost any other, because it doesn't stand out at all. But here's where things shift. Because the surface of this coin, its tone, its texture, even its imperfections, are everything. That slightly darkened color, the uneven wear, the subtle dullness, that's original toning. That's proof the coin hasn't been altered. And collectors want that more than anything. The moment you try to clean it, polish it, or improve how it looks, you destroy its identity. Never clean this coin. You don't fix it, you erase it. And this is where it becomes dangerous to ignore. Because while most people see an old quarter, collectors see a shrinking supply. Every year, more of these coins are lost, damaged, or destroyed. And the few that remain in collectible condition, they're being pulled out of circulation and locked away. That means the number available is dropping, while demand is rising. That's the exact formula for explosive value. Now think about the psychology behind this. The 1971D quarter represents a turning point in American money. It carries the weight of a financial system shift, a moment when coins became disconnected from gold and entered a new era. Collectors don't just want this coin, they feel connected to it. It's not just currency, it's history you can hold, and that emotional pull is pushing prices higher than ever. Auction behavior around this coin is intense, but not loud. It's calculated, strategic. When a strong 1971D in fine condition appears, especially with original surfaces intact, it draws attention quickly. Bidders don't hesitate. They know opportunities like this are rare. And once it's sold, it often disappears into a private collection, sometimes for decades. That's why you don't see them often. That's why prices keep climbing. If you're checking your own coins right now, and you should be, the first thing to look for is that D mint mark. Then focus on the details. Can you still see definition in Washington's hair? Are the letters readable and not completely worn down? Does the surface look natural, slightly aged, untouched? That's what matters. That's where the value lives. And if you think you've found one, don't guess. Get it professionally graded. That step can change everything. Because here's the reality most people aren't ready to hear. You could be holding $70,000 and not even know it. That's not exaggeration. That's not hype. That's happening. People are spending these coins every day, completely unaware of what they're giving away. And once it's gone, it's gone. You don't get that chance back. So I'll say it clearly again. Do not spend this coin. Hold it. Protect it. Respect the condition it's in. Because this is hidden wealth in its quietest form. A silent fortune disguised as something ordinary. And now that you know, you see it differently. But don't relax yet. Because the next coin, it's on another level entirely. It's rarer, harder to recognize, and what collectors are willing to pay for it makes everything we've talked about so far look small. Stay with me because this next one could change everything. Most people would look at this coin and feel embarrassed to even keep it. I'm serious. The 1951 Washington quarter with no mint mark, in poor circulated condition, looks like something you'd want to get rid of fast. It's worn down, dark, maybe even scratched and lifeless. But that exact reaction, that instinct to ignore it, is why people are unknowingly throwing away up to $90. This coin is the definition of hidden wealth, and it hides behind damage. Now go back to 1951, because this year carries weight most people never think about. America was deep in the post-World War II era, and the Korean War had already begun. Resources were being managed carefully, metals were critical, and the U.S. Mint was under pressure to keep coins flowing into the economy. These quarters weren't made to be collected. They were made to be used over and over again until they practically disappeared. And that's exactly what happened. These coins didn't sit in collections, they lived hard lives. They passed through thousands of hands, across decades, through pockets, cash registers, and machines. So when you see a 1951 quarter today in poor condition, it's not just worn, it's a survivor. And when that coin has no mint mark, meaning it was struck in Philadelphia, it becomes part of a group that collectors study obsessively. Look at the front, even if it's faint. Washington's profile might be almost smooth in places, the word liberty barely visible, in God we trust, fading into the surface. The date, 1951, might be weak, but if it's readable, that alone matters. Because collectors aren't looking for perfection here, they're looking for authenticity. They want proof that this coin lived through history and made it to today without being altered. Turn it over, and the eagle might look like it's disappearing. The wings could be flat, the arrows almost gone, the olive branches blending into the background. But here's the twist. This isn't damage in the eyes of collectors. This is character. This is a coin that did exactly what it was supposed to do for decades and somehow survived. That kind of story creates demand that most people don't understand. Now here's something that changes everything. This coin isn't clad like modern quarters. It's 90% silver and 10% copper. That means it carries intrinsic value before collectors even get involved. It weighs about 6.25 grams, slightly heavier than modern quarters, with that same 24.3 millimeters diameter and a solid, unmistakable feel in your hand. The thickness, the edge reading, worn but present, it all adds to the identity of the coin. And yet, despite all of this, people still ignore it. Because it doesn't shine. It doesn't impress. It doesn't look like money. It looks like something that's been through too much. But that's exactly why it's rare today. Most coins in this condition didn't survive. They were melted down for silver, lost, or completely destroyed. So the few that remain, untouched and original, have become incredibly important to collectors. This is where people make their biggest mistake. They try to fix it. They clean it, polish it, scrub away the darkness, thinking they're improving it. But they're actually destroying it. That dark tone, that uneven surface, that aged appearance, that's original toning. That's history sitting right on the coin. The second you remove it, you erase the value. Never clean this coin, not under any circumstances. And yes, even in poor circulated condition, this coin has reached auction levels of $90. Zeroth. Let that sink in. A coin that looks worn out, nearly forgotten, has triggered serious money in the market. Why? Because collectors know how rare it is to find one that hasn't been tampered with. They know how few have survived this long in original condition. And when one appears, the competition gets real. But it's not loud competition. It's quiet, intense, calculated. Collectors don't announce what they're doing. They move fast and secure the coin. Because once they have it, they're not letting it go. These coins disappear into private collections, sometimes never to be seen again. That's why supply keeps shrinking. That's why demand keeps rising. And that's why prices keep climbing. There's also an emotional side to this coin that drives its value even higher. This isn't just a piece of metal, it's a piece of American history. It lived through a time of war, economic pressure, and national change. It was used by real people in real moments. And collectors feel that. They connect to it. They don't just want the coin, they want the story behind it. If you think you might have one, here's what to check first. Look for the date, 1951, then check for the absence of a mint mark under the date. That's Philadelphia. Next, examine the surface. Does it look natural? Worn, but not artificially cleaned? Good. That's what you want. And even if it looks rough, don't dismiss it. That roughness might be exactly what makes it valuable. And please understand this. Do not spend this coin. Because the people who are losing money on this aren't making small mistakes. They're giving away life-changing opportunities without even realizing it. This coin hides too well. It looks too ordinary. And that's why it keeps slipping through the cracks. Professional grading is critical here. You need experts to confirm what you have, to protect it, and to give it credibility in the market. That's how a forgotten coin turns into confirmed value. That's how uncertainty turns into real money. This is not just a coin. It's a silent fortune. It's hidden wealth disguised as something worn out and unimportant. And now that you know, you can't unsee it. But brace yourself, because the next coin is on a completely different level. It's older, rarer, and what collectors are willing to do to get it might actually shock you. Stay with me. There's a coin out there, older than most people's grandparents, still moving through pockets, still being handed over like it's nothing, and it should honestly make you uncomfortable. Because the 1941 Washington quarter, with no mint mark, in dirty circulated condition, has quietly reached $100, zeroth. And the worst part? People are still spending it every single day. No hesitation, no awareness. Just gone. This is not just a miss. This is a life-changing mistake hiding in plain sight. Now rewind to 1941. This wasn't just any year in American history. This was the edge of World War II. Tension was rising. Uncertainty was everywhere. And by the end of that year, everything changed after Pearl Harbor. The country shifted overnight. Industry, metal usage, production priorities, everything was under pressure. And the U.S. Mint? It was producing coins during one of the most intense transitions in modern history. These quarters weren't collectibles. They were tools of survival. And because of that, these coins didn't get preserved. They got used. Hard. Over and over again. Passed through wartime economies, post-war rebuilding, decades of circulation, until most of them were either destroyed, melted, or completely worn beyond recognition. So when a 1941 quarter without a mint mark, meaning it came from Philadelphia, survives today in dirty circulated condition, collectors don't ignore it. They lock in. Look at the front of the coin. Washington's face might be dark, worn, almost blending into the surface. Liberty could be faint. In God We Trust, partially visible, and the date, 1941, might look like it's barely holding on. But that's exactly what makes it powerful. Because every visible detail means this coin made it through over 80 years without being erased. That's not common. That's rare. Flip it over, and the eagle tells a deeper story. The wings might look flat, the feather lines fading, the arrows and olive branches merging into the background. But again, this isn't weakness. This is proof of life. This coin circulated through one of the most important periods in U.S. history and survived. That kind of survival creates a level of collector demand that most people will never understand. And here's something most people overlook completely. This coin is 90% silver. Not clad, not modern, real silver. It weighs about 6.25 grams, has that same 24.3 millimeters diameter, and a slightly thicker, more solid feel than newer quarters. When you hold it, there's a subtle difference, a density, a presence. But if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it entirely. Now let's talk about that dirty surface, because this is where fortunes are lost. That darkness, that uneven tone, that almost gritty look, that's original. That's decades of untouched history sitting right there on the coin. And collectors want that more than anything. The moment you clean it, even slightly, you destroy its authenticity. You erase the very thing that gives it value. Never clean this coin. Ever. This is where it becomes almost painful to realize what's happening. Because while collectors are paying up to $100,000 for these coins, other people are still dropping them into vending machines. They're trading them for snacks, parking, coffee, completely unaware of what they're holding. Do not spend this coin, because once it leaves your hand, that silent fortune is gone forever. Collectors are not casual about this one. This is a cornerstone year, a pre-war coin with deep historical weight. When one appears on the market, especially with original, untouched surfaces, it doesn't sit for long. The bidding is fast, focused, and aggressive. And once it's sold, it often disappears into a private collection where it may not resurface for years, if ever. That's why supply is collapsing. And demand, it's rising fast. Because collectors aren't just chasing rarity, they're chasing connection. This coin represents a moment when the world changed. When America shifted into wartime. When everyday objects, like coins, became part of a much bigger story. Owning this coin isn't just about money, it's about holding a piece of that moment in your hand. If you think you might have one, here's what matters most. First, check the date, 1941, then confirm there's no mint mark under it. That's Philadelphia. Next, examine the surface. It should look natural, aged, untouched. Dark is good, uneven is good. That's original toning. Then check the details. Whatever is still visible matters. And finally, don't guess. Get it professionally graded. That's how you unlock real value. Because here's the truth. This coin doesn't look like $100 zeroth. It doesn't feel like it. It doesn't announce itself. It hides, quietly, patiently, waiting for someone to recognize it before it disappears again. This is hidden wealth in its purest form. A silent fortune that most people will never see, even when it's right in front of them. And now, you know, so before you spend another quarter, stop and look at it. Because what you ignore today could be the biggest mistake you ever make. These coins are out there right now, circulating unnoticed and disappearing fast. If you want more hidden treasures like this, make sure you stay with Crazy Valuable Coins. Because the next discovery we uncover might already be sitting in your pocket.